In 1984, Michael Jackson was the biggest star on the planet. Thriller had just become the best-selling album in history. Every arena in America was sold out before a single ticket went on sale. But before his biggest tour even started, one decision, a lottery, nearly destroyed everything he had built. And the person who finally stopped it wasn't a lawyer, a manager, or a music executive. It was an 11-year-old girl from Texas. By the summer of 1984, Michael Jackson wasn't just a pop star. He was a phenomenon unlike anything the music industry had ever seen. He was 25 years old, living in Encino, California, and coming off the most successful album in history. Thriller had been released in November 1982, and by mid-1984 it had already sold tens of millions of copies worldwide. 7 of its 9 tracks had become top 10 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, a record no album had ever achieved before. He had just won 8 Grammy Awards in a single night, another record that stood for decades. His face was on every magazine. His red jacket was on every Halloween costume. Kids in Tokyo, London, and Sao Paulo were learning the moonwalk in their living rooms. Michael Jackson wasn't just famous, he was untouchable. And now, for the first time in years, he was going back on the road. Not as a solo act, but with his brothers. The Jacksons, a reunion, the kind of event that only happens once in a generation. They called it the Victory Tour, and the whole world was watching. But behind the scenes, something was already going very wrong. The Victory Tour was supposed to be the biggest concert event of 1984. 55 shows across 23 American cities, starting July 6th in Kansas City, Missouri. With Thriller still dominating the charts, demand for tickets was absolutely insane. The venues held around 30,000 fans per night, and millions of people across the country wanted in. That's when a man named Don King entered the picture. Don King was the most famous boxing promoter in the world. He had promoted Muhammad Ali. He had promoted the Rumble in the Jungle. He was loud, aggressive, and had absolutely zero experience promoting rock concerts. But in 1983, he offered the Jackson family a $3 million advance and convinced Joe Jackson, Michael's father and the family's manager, to let him handle the Victory Tour. Michael didn't want Don King involved. From the very beginning, he made that clear to his team. But Joe Jackson had already shaken hands on the deal. And in the Jackson family, Joe's word was final. So Don King got to work. And the system he designed to sell tickets was unlike anything the music industry had ever seen. And not in a good way. Here's how it worked. Fans couldn't just walk up to a box office and buy a ticket. Instead, they had to clip a coupon from a newspaper, fill out a form, and mail a postal money order. Not a check, not cash, a postal money order for a minimum of $120. That bought you 4 tickets at $30 each. You mailed the money weeks in advance. Then you waited. And if you were lucky, only about 1 in 10 people were, you received your tickets just 2 days before the show, via regular mail, with no guarantee they'd arrive in time. $30 per ticket in 1984 is the equivalent of nearly $90 today. And you had to buy 4 of them just to enter the lottery. Families were sending $120 into the mail with no guarantee of getting anything back. Postal workers were reportedly stealing cash from envelopes. People were losing their money and never hearing back. The whole system was a disaster, and Michael Jackson was furious. But here's the thing, Michael couldn't just cancel the lottery on his own. The contracts were signed, the money was already moving, and the tour was less than a week away from opening night. So how did one letter from an 11-year-old girl change everything? To understand why this lottery was so dangerous for Michael Jackson specifically, you have to understand what was at stake in the summer of 1984. Michael had spent the previous 2 years building the most carefully crafted public image in entertainment history. Every detail of his persona, the glove, the fedora, the moonwalk, the mystery, had been engineered to make him feel like something beyond ordinary. A legend, an icon, not just a pop star, but a symbol. And that image depended entirely on one thing, the love of his fans. Michael understood this better than anyone. He had grown up performing since age 6. He had watched his father treat the family's talent as a pure transaction, with zero regard for the audience. And he had made a private promise to himself that he would never do the same. So when the Victory Tour lottery launched and the complaints started pouring in, thousands of letters, phone calls to radio stations, news reports about families losing their savings, Michael didn't just see a PR problem. He saw a betrayal of everything he stood for. His manager, Frank Dilio, was already trying to push Don King out. King had been fired from the tour in May 1984, just 3 weeks before the first show, after a Rhode Island promoter named Frank Russo filed a $40 million lawsuit against Don King Productions, Joe Jackson, and all 6 Jackson brothers for breach of contract and fraud. The Jacksons used that legal pressure as the opening they needed to remove King from the operation entirely. Chuck Sullivan, an executive from the New England Patriots organization, stepped in as the new promoter. But the lottery system King had designed was still in place, and it was still damaging Michael's reputation one angry fan at a time. Then, on July 5, 1984, the day before the tour's opening night in Kansas City, a letter arrived at Michael Jackson's home in Encino. It was from LaDonna Jones. She was 11 years old. She lived in Texas. And she had written Michael a letter telling him exactly how the lottery made her feel. She had saved up money from odd jobs. She had filled out the form. She had mailed the money order, and she had gotten nothing back. No tickets, no refund, just silence. Michael read that letter and made a decision. What he did next shocked everyone in the music industry. And it happened just hours before 30,000 people were about to walk into Arrowhead Stadium for the first show of the biggest tour of 1984. On July 5, 1984, just hours before opening night, Michael Jackson called a press conference. He stood in front of reporters and cameras and said something that no artist of his stature had ever said before. He called the lottery system, his own tour's ticketing system, a ripoff. He used that exact word, a ripoff. Then he announced that it was over, effective immediately. From that point forward, fans would not have to enter any lottery. They would not have to mail money orders weeks in advance. They would not have to buy 4 tickets at a time. Tickets would go on sale at the box office the traditional way, and no fan would pay a single dollar unless they were guaranteed a seat. But he didn't stop there. Michael Jackson then announced that he was donating his entire personal share of the Victory Tour profits to charity. Every dollar he earned from 55 shows, from 2.5 million fans, from a tour that would gross $75 million, he was giving it all away. The United Negro College Fund received a major portion. Camp Good Times received another. The T.J. Martell Foundation, which funded cancer research for children, received the rest. His personal share came to an estimated $3 to $5 million. He kept none of it. The music industry was stunned. Promoters couldn't understand it. His own brothers were reportedly confused. Why would the biggest star in the world give away millions of dollars from his own tour? But Michael understood something that the business people around him didn't. His career wasn't built on ticket sales. It was built on trust. And the lottery had broken that trust. The only way to repair it was to make it undeniably clear, with money, not just words, that he was on the fans' side. And LaDonna Jones, the 11-year-old whose letter started all of this, received VIP treatment at the Dallas show. She got to meet Michael backstage. But the story doesn't end there, because the financial wreckage left behind by that lottery system was only just beginning. The Victory Tour went on to become the highest-grossing concert tour in American history up to that point. 55 shows, 23 cities, approximately 2.5 million people in attendance. Total gross revenue, $75 million, the equivalent of roughly $230 million in today's money. But behind the scenes, the financial chaos that Don King had set in motion didn't disappear just because he was gone. Chuck Sullivan, the promoter who replaced King, had signed one of the most punishing contracts in concert history. The deal gave the Jacksons the overwhelming majority of net revenues, while Sullivan absorbed nearly all the costs: production, insurance, logistics, and even Don King's severance. On top of that, Sullivan owed the Jacksons a per-ticket fee on every unsold seat. In the early shows, with thousands of unsold tickets per night, that was costing him enormous sums out of his own pocket. By the time the tour ended, Sullivan had lost somewhere between $13 and $22 million. He had used Sullivan Stadium, the home of the New England Patriots, as collateral to finance the tour. The loss triggered a financial collapse that the Sullivan family never recovered from. By 1988, Billy Sullivan was forced to sell the New England Patriots for approximately $84 million. The stadium followed. The entire Sullivan family empire, built over decades, unraveled in large part because of the financial fallout from a lottery system that Michael Jackson never wanted in the first place. Meanwhile, Frank Russo's $40 million lawsuit against the Jacksons and Don King dragged on for years. The legal fallout cost everyone involved millions of dollars and years of litigation. And Michael? He walked away from the Victory Tour with $0 in personal earnings. By choice, but with something far more valuable. His reputation was not just intact, it was stronger than ever. The press conference on July 5th had reframed the entire narrative. Instead of Michael Jackson's tour rips off fans, the story became Michael Jackson stands up for fans and gives away millions. Every major newspaper in America covered it. The goodwill he generated that day would pay dividends for the rest of his career. But here's the question nobody asks. What would have happened if Michael Jackson had done nothing? If he had let the lottery run its course, kept his share of the money, and stayed silent? The answer is that we might remember Michael Jackson very differently today. In 1984, he was at the most fragile moment of his career. Not because he was struggling, but because he was at the peak. And peaks are dangerous. One major scandal, one story of a superstar exploiting his own fans, could have cracked the foundation of everything. The press controlled the narrative, and the press was already writing the lottery story as a scandal. Michael Jackson's decision to act, immediately, publicly, and at personal financial cost, shut that story down before it could grow. He didn't hire a publicist to manage the crisis. He didn't issue a statement through a spokesperson. He stood in front of cameras himself, called it what it was, and fixed it. LaDonna Jones, the 11-year-old from Texas who saved up money from odd jobs just to try to see her favorite artist, got her VIP tickets to the Dallas show. She got to meet Michael backstage, and the letter she wrote, a handwritten note from a kid who just wanted to be in that stadium, became one of the most consequential pieces of fan mail in music history. Today, the Victory Tour is remembered as a triumph. 2.5 million fans, $75 million. The last time all 6 Jackson brothers ever performed together on a stage. A historic moment in American music. But it almost became something else entirely. It almost became the tour where Michael Jackson let a broken system exploit his fans, stayed quiet, and let the money roll in. He chose differently. And that choice, made on July 5, 1984, hours before opening night in Kansas City, is a big part of why, more than 40 years later, the name Michael Jackson still means something. If this story surprised you, wait until you hear about the other artists whose business decisions nearly ended their careers at the exact moment they were most famous. That story is coming next.